introductions. You may not have met Thomas yet. I've seen him a lot in the last few months. So we've got myself, Gabby, and Thomas. Gabby's with HKGI, so she's been helping with like the big park proper. Thomas is with Ortel Architects, so he's been helping a lot with the building. If either of you want to introduce yourself further, I'd be happy to let you.
That's an appropriate introduction.
All right, thank you. Are you gonna see? Okay, so update on where we are in the design process. You've seen this timeline before, so we're in design development, which is the midway point. We completed schematic design in the fall and working on the 60%. So we're presenting the draft 60% design set. So these are just some images refreshing of what we have developed so far. So schedule update, right now we are looking at the February 13th City Council meeting for our final 60% design review meeting. So we were shooting for January, but that got pushed back, so we do.
Oh, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. I like this holiday too. Merry Christmas. Christmas.
Next slide. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is that we're seeking input from you on the playground equipment. We have received play equipment renderings and concepts from 3 different vendors. Splash pad, we've received concepts from 2 different vendors. And then just in general, the design, where we're at, if there are any comments on the design. So engagement, just
Yes.
went over this.
We just went through it. So we kind of went through those top priorities, the design and landscape preferences, playground and splash pad insights. Does anyone have any questions? We can go through it all again, but this is kind of why we did it before. Connectivity, safety, community vision, incorporating that Corcoran feel, demographics of response. All right. So this is the site plan where we're at right now. We are showing highlighted in the red dashed line what items we are listing as alternates right now. So the base bid that we're showing is starting from the west side. We have the level playing area for soccer fields and cricket and other recreation. 2 is showing where stormwater ponding will be located in the southwest area of the park. 3 identifies the large paved parking lot with about 260 stalls. 4 identifies the existing ball field that we will be making a little bit smaller and identifying as a youth ball field. 5 shows the destination playground. 6 is where the splash pad is located, next to the building and the parking lot. 7 behind the building is a patio with the alternate overhead shelter. 8 is the new park building. 9 is showing where we have overflow parking, potentially future paved parking if that becomes a need in the future. And then 10 is where the pickleball courts are shown to the west of the parking lot. You can go next. This diagram highlights where the trails will be located. So the lime green color is showing where the proposed regional trail is located. That's the Diamond Lake Regional Trail, which is 3 Rivers Park District. I just want to point out to the south of the parking lot, there's that segment just along the south edge of the parking lot. We plan to grade out that section, but we wouldn't pave that until the trailhead is built in the future. And then the orange highlights where bituminous or asphalt trails will be located along the parking lot, and then an alternate trail is shown from the park building down to the T-ball field. So that would be access for ADA access down to the T-ball fields. And then the blue is where concrete would be located. So around the building would be concrete plaza and patio areas, and then between and around the playground and splash pad would be sidewalks. And then in the central part of the parking lot, there is a concrete sidewalk that goes from east to west through the parking lot for access to the pickleball courts, where there is a concrete plaza shown in between the pickleball courts.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
I know at one point you thought you might need stormwater between what will be the new youth field and the playground. Was that ruled out as needing, or what is going to be in between there?
Yeah, we've talked about that with Stantec, our civil engineers, and it seems like that there may be potential for a small rain garden in there. It may be more aesthetic than
Okay.
functional due to the soils. There are a lot of clay soils. But we're planning on berming a little bit along the edge, the outfield edge of that ball field in order to have some buffer between the outfield and the playground.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I'm glad to have that there than a storm drain.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, next. This slide highlights where we are recommending new trees, and then you can see the red circles. They're mainly in the central part of the park from north to west. Those will be removed. Most, if not all of those trees are ash trees. So we talked through that option about if we would recommend saving them, because a lot of them are large trees. They do provide existing shade, which is nice, but the city's not interested in treating them over the years in order to save them with emerald ash borer coming. So we're deciding to remove those and plant new trees.
And to be fair, it was a discussion during our development review committee of, we don't currently have a policy. It's not likely that one will be developed in the foreseeable future. So.
Yeah, that was my only note on this page. It would be all those ones up on that hill would have been really nice to maintain that shade, because it's a really, both for the t-ball fields and for the people sitting at that park.
Do we need a policy to treat this one time?
They're quite expensive to treat, and it's an ongoing treatment. Like, it's not just a one-time treatment.
And it's not guaranteed that it'll work.
Hmm.
Are they infected already?
Not
Not that we
our knowledge.
are aware of, yeah.
Because could you keep them and then remove them as they become affected, or, except for the one that's like where the building is, obviously?
It's a tree.
I'm just curious, because there isn't really anything that's impeding. They're just sort of around everything. So it seems like, why would you get rid of them if you're gonna just be, remove
Yeah,
them
if
when
they've
you need
survived this
to?
long, they could last another
Right.
10 years.
I don't know, if they're not diseased already, I don't understand why we would remove them, if they're good trees. And if they're not in the way. If they're in the way, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
We
I
could
think.
discuss it. I mean, potentially, we could plant new trees around that could fill in the canopy as we have to remove the ash trees over time, if the city is going to develop a policy in the next year or two.
And there are a few I mean, putting a new tree next to an ash tree will make removing the ash tree when it dies just problematic.
Depending on how close.
How close it is. There are some spots there where
Yep.
there are no new trees going in. There's just, especially on the, kind of on the north side, there's some ash trees. It seems like some of them could be left and then knock them down when they die.
It just
Or
seems,
leave them up for woodpeckers or
right.
which fall on small children.
It just seems like if that was one of the top things in our survey, was that trees were like something that was really wanted. It seems to me that it's not maybe the best course of action for us to say, let's remove those big trees. So just something maybe we should talk more about.
Yeah, I'd like the idea of them providing shade,
Mhm.
at least for the first half of the day. It's good to the park.
Yeah, when you go play, like the t-ball, that's where a lot of people sit, is
Oh,
up on that hill too, where the kids run around up there too.
okay.
Sit in the shade at night when it's.
Okay, that's good. It's good feedback, that's why
Makes
we're
sense.
here.
Yeah.
So the, this diagram shows a little more closely, you can see the trees that are identified. The southern part of the parking lot, we're identifying a pretty heavy screening buffer, as is required as part of city code. Since the parking lot is less than 100 feet from the edge of the road, we need to have a strong screen. So we're recommending a variety of coniferous and deciduous trees in there. And
On
then,
the hedge, why wouldn't we just do all evergreens? All the different types?
just for more interest and variety.
Okay.
And evergreens are still not native here. Their lifespan is pretty limited.
Yeah.
Just want to shield that road as much as possible.
They don't like the clay, isn't it, Tom?
If I had a preference, I'd
Yeah.
say we do all
They like
oaks.
sand, they're saying
Really?
There's a lot
areas more.
of places that are now putting in like oaks and maples, like on main streets,
Hmm.
Yeah,
because they
oaks
last
are-
longer. I know that you
Would be
get the
just slow
argument
growing.
that they need to have like maintenance and
When the
trimming
next
and,
borer comes along, that's an oak borer or something.
right.
But anyways,
Yeah.
okay, sounds like you
There
thought
is,
that through.
on the northeast corner of the building site, there is a really nice oak that is shown in that bluish green color that we're proposing to keep, and so we looked at making the
Big blue circle?
patio
That's
around the
cool.
building just a little closer to the building, just so we can make sure that we don't impact the root zone of that tree.
I might have said you guys like trees.
And then, well, I wouldn't want to cut down a nice oak tree either, that would be unfortunate. And then the pink areas are showing landscape areas, so we've talked back and forth about landscape areas. We're recommending potentially some low-maintenance planting beds, which could be shrubs and perennials, potentially some prairie seeding or pollinator mixes. So we want to make sure that we're planting plants that are easy to maintain for city staff, but that will also provide some habitat value and also some nice texture rather than just having turf grass everywhere.
Mhm.
One of my thoughts on this one was it's very windy at the park, so I know there's deciduous around that playground and splash pad. It might be worth considering like helping with some of the wind buffer with like pine trees or coniferous trees or on the west side of that.
On the west side.
Because it is like, I mean, I don't know what the wind's gonna be like when we regrade everything, but it's right now pretty open space up on that playground or in the middle of that park there, and might be a good idea to break some of that up around our key features.
Okay. All right. Any other
Are the
comments on
soils
this?
really bad for trees?
Well, there's
Are
just a
they?
lot of clay, so we just want to make sure that the species we plant are
Oh, okay.
tolerant of.
I think ponderosa pine is like the weed of the evergreens. I think they're really good.
Really
I
hard.
wanna think about that.
Are there
Is there-
desire for any other species in particular? Oaks?
Sorry. I was just gonna ask if like in the parking area, are there like irrigation to water those trees?
We've discussed irrigation, we're identifying it right now as an alternate, but I think maybe around in the landscape areas, we'll probably recommend drip irrigation at a minimum. So we are including it in our cost estimate, but based on whatever the cost is, it may come out as an alternate depending, which may limit where we plant certain species, planting beds and trees. So yes, that's a good point. We need to think about irrigation to make sure these plants survive.
Something I do want to note before we make it much further, there might be a couple of slides in your packet that seem a little off. We made a few minor adjustments to the slideshow. You should have all of the slides. The only difference is it might say January 23rd, and now that we're looking at February 13th, and then when we get to building, we did readjust the order of the slides. Just that when we hit that point, you're not going, I can't find these pages. They should be in there.
Should be.
They just might not be in the right order.
Tom, you happy with the trees?
I am happy with the trees, yes. I'm assuming that your American elm is some of the new
Yeah, the high.
varieties.
Yep.
Yeah, and they haven't, I know a few of them, and they're not really elm trees, but they're seem to be okay. Otherwise these are nice, and, yeah, no, I like them a lot. Hackberry is a wonderful tree, swamp white oak is good, river birch is fine. So, yeah. But mostly we have to, if you let me know the day they're planting them, I'll come out and tell them they're covering up the root flare. You're not supposed to do
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Doesn't the river birch need a lot of water? Like shouldn't we
You
do
know,
like a
we've
paper
got
bird?
we've got one actually, a church growing in a parking lot between a sidewalk and the parking lot.
okay. They do.
And it's not growing very fast, but it's doing fine, and we got some that are in a rain garden, and they're big and not very strong. And so the small one is better. So,
I've got one in my backyard too.
yeah,
Yeah, it's doing okay.
okay, well, that's good, yeah.
The only thing I'd add is maybe quaking aspen, because then those are really fast growing.
They are very fast.
So then the oaks and the maples, those take a while.
They do,
Right.
but, oak trees grow surprisingly fast. They just, you're talking 30 years.
Yeah.
But, it's, okay,
One lifetime,
yeah, well, yeah, it's half a lifetime, yeah. Third of a
a third
lifetime,
of a lifetime.
yeah,
So watch them grow and then retire.
Yeah, right.
yeah, no, it's nice.
Other questions on trees and landscape?
All right, so for stormwater, we're still in the process of verifying exactly where the stormwater will go, but this slide highlights some considerations, modifications that the civil engineer is suggesting. So due to the infrastructure and piping costs of all of the impervious surface on the parking lot, the building, the play area, the splash pad, getting that over to the southwest area of the park, they recommended that we switch the pickleball layout, and I know we had this before, but to the northern 6. So in the black dashed lines, that would be 6 pickleball courts, and then the stormwater ponding would shift to the directly south of those 6 pickleball courts. And then if there were pickleball expansion to 12 in the future, those would go to the west. So there would be 12 in a row instead of 6 over 6. The reason for that is that with the soccer balls or other balls in the play field, open play field space, there would likely need to be fencing along that western stormwater pond to prevent balls from going in there. So that would be more cost. And then the piping infrastructure needed to get the water over to that western pond would be higher cost. So potentially a savings of around $30,000 to move the pond closer to the parking lot. But the current concept shows the far west larger pond would be a wet pond, so it would always have water in it. The central pond would be sometimes wet, sometimes dry, and then the southern one to the south of the parking lot would be always dry, just filtration.
The pickleball courts again, so you could have the 6 there the way it is?
The 6.
And then if we added later?
So right now, 6 are shown
Mhm.
in kind of a square almost.
Mm-hmm.
This would be changing it to be a longer,
Oh,
it would almost serve as like a buffer so that you're not having soccer balls go into the stormwater pond. Now, to be fair, this isn't necessarily the layout of the soccer fields. It'll be dependent on what the program looks like because we do kind of shift and change the field sizes and numbers dependent on registration. But this helps kind of make one larger or two.
so if you got
ponds.
6 in a row and we wanted to add more, where would those go?
To west, so it would be just.
Some of this would be gone.
Into the
Some of
pond?
that stormwater pond would be gone because it would be below the pickleball courts.
It would shift to the south.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
kinda.
It might help if I zoom in here.
If that one has water in it all the time, that might be safer anyways. If kids are gonna be on that field, I don't know. It depends on how deep it gets and,
So this would shift to join in with this one,
that makes sense.
and then these 3 courts would be here instead.
Is it gonna add additional cost then to have that concrete patio extend all the way out?
We
Walkway?
probably wouldn't make it as
Just wouldn't as
wide.
wide.
It would probably be narrower.
Just go along with the other 3, gotcha.
Does that help clarify?
Yes, it is
No
what
true
it is.
preference either way.
Well, I like them, the way they are.
Yeah,
We
Me
had a
too.
discussion on that as to why, but
Mhm.
if that doesn't work, and it's gonna cost us a ton more,
I don't think it's so much the cost savings as like both the fact that the balls are gonna go in there, it's probably safer this way, and it saves some money. Thoughts?
You're the one fetching them out, huh?
I hope not. I'm hoping that this means that we don't have to. Although I have seen people use a little pool net to get stuff out of those ponds, so I've got some ideas.
She's gonna want a new one.
We don't have one, I'm gonna need one.
Okay.
Anything more on stormwater? This is, for those of you that knew Brad Martins when he was here, you'll notice there's a sledding hill on here. That was his dream.
Mount Corcoran.
So this slide highlights what we think winter use might be. Obviously, the building would be 4 seasons, so that could be used in the winter. If there is snow, there could potentially be skiing or snowshoeing through the fields. There will be winter walking on the trails, of course. Snow playing with snow in the field. And then we suggested a sledding hill if that trail is not built down to the T-ball field, since that is an alternate trail, then that little hill could be a sledding hill. And then we have the existing hockey and skating use.
Quick question on the hockey rinks. Is there just 2 hockey rinks or 3?
Those would be the hockey rinks
The
that
3,
exist
just
currently.
still 3 then, okay.
Yep. So 2 with boards, one's a youth rink of that, one's an
Yep.
adult, and then the free skate.
Okay.
Next is lighting. So we're highlighting where we're laying out lights within the park. We're looking at parking lot, which would be street scale type lights, overhead lights, Cobra style. And then the yellow would be pedestrian scale lights. And then we are showing some bollards, which would be around the building and at the pickleball courts. So if you go to the next slide, we are still in progress, but the minimum goal is to provide security lighting for the parking lot so that it's safe, especially in the winter when people are parking and walking into the building. The pedestrian scale lighting around the playgrounds, potentially an alternate, might not be entirely necessary, but looking for input from this group on your feelings. And then the bollards would be more for lighting at the drop-off area in front of the building, near the splash pad, and then the pickleball courts. So the parking lot lights would be the standard Cobra light. Like I said, we don't have an image of that, but if you can imagine when you drive along the street, you see those lights that stick out.
Big ugly ones.
But they make things safer.
We have to
Yeah.
have those.
Yeah. We don't have to, it's if we want to provide security and
Oh, I
safety.
mean, can we use a different light?
Yeah, it would just be more expensive. So the Cobra are the basic, the lowest cost
Yeah.
for providing the most light.
Could we just do more of the pedestrian, or larger pedestrian scale lights or something?
Those are really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just provide less light, so we don't need more of them.
I would almost add one of the yellow ones to the top of the park. Oh, this is where you said it's different than on there, okay.
Yeah.
That one that's on the top there, yeah, by the
Sorry.
ball field, no, it's great. That just means we're
That was
thinking
a-
the same
Up to the
thing.
pinwheel?
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
late addition.
And that, but then maybe one on the bottom left by that trailhead. I'm just
Oh, okay.
kind of thinking of the whole parking lot, safety-wise.
And the park's open till 11, so it is gonna be dark while it's still open. So that's where lights can be important for us. So that's still gonna be the
As
hours.
your staff, I'd really like lights at the park.
Yeah.
The walkway lighting, can we get something, is that the actual light that's picked out right now?
Those are what we're looking at speccing now. So.
Can we do something a little more low profile? Closer to the ground?
For which one? For
The
the
bollards?
walkway
Bollard?
lighting, the bollards, yeah.
lower
People are gonna
profile.
kick those and knock
Oh.
them down.
So what are you thinking? Like a
Circus light?
I mean, if you could get that low, I don't know if you can or not with, because you need the light, obviously, but get as low to the ground as possible. You want to see the light, but you don't want to see the light fixture.
What about the
snow?
winter then, though?
Yeah.
Like if the building's being rented out and,
Well, we'd have someone like shoveling.
I mean, those
right?
lights would get covered in snow eventually
Yeah.
too.
We could just not have bollards. The building will have lighting on it.
Ugh.
I don't know if there's a concept yet for the outdoor lights on the
I like
building,
having
but-
walkway lighting, I think it adds
Yeah, I
to
do
the
too.
ambiance, but I
Mhm.
think those are,
how tall are
Kind
they?
of
yeah,
intrusive.
yeah.
Mhm.
Look like.
3.5, 4 feet?
Those are 3.5, 4 feet. Oh,
Yeah.
I was picturing like this tall.
Oh, those?
Yeah, those
Yeah,
look like
yeah.
waist,
Yeah, those
like
are
waist high.
bollards are like this.
Oh, okay, now I can picture it a little better. I was picturing like a garden light or something.
Oh.
Oh, like a little stake?
Yeah, yeah, like
No.
people, okay, people aren't gonna just gonna walk into those and kick them over, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does that change things?
Yeah, it does change things.
I'm still not a fan of them, but
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, less light fixture the better, but at least they're,
they're tall.
yeah, and they're not gonna get destroyed on the first weekend.
They're not your Dollar Tree stake lights.
Yeah.
That would save some money.
The price, I thought that was for the whole lot of them too, $1,800. It's like,
A piece, huh?
this is why I ask these questions.
I love the question.
Everyone
We
in the audience
definitely
today
need
was thinking
people
the
for
same thing.
scale in our images.
That would be helpful. Other questions on lighting? So, not so much these ones, what are we not a fan of with these ones? Or is that just Chair Christensen's feelings?
I like the pedestrian ones.
Yeah.
I do
don't have a
too, the
problem with them.
pedestrian lights look,
I like those too.
Good.
Those are on brand?
Those are
Yeah.
cool. Yep.
And there's a lot less of the bollards, so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we'll see 'em.
Yeah,
Just a few here and there to,
kinda make it look
I mean,
nice.
could we get away without them and still have enough light? Does the expert think?
Like, yeah. I mean, yeah, are they safe?
Well, we had, we should have put the diagram of all of the coverage.
For the photometric.
Because you
Yeah,
would,
the photometric diagram.
would you really
so-
need them by like the splash pad? Because you wouldn't be there at night.
Yeah, that's the question, is if it's really needed, if
That's true.
people are gonna be walking on those trails at night or
Mhm.
not.
I'd rather have
Well,
more
the
of
other
the
lights are there.
pedestrian lightings. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd rather kind of filter people to the south or the north of the.
If we don't need them, I say scratch them.
I think they'd look nice in front of the building,
Yeah.
the three of them over there. You know, just as you,
Too, yeah.
What about the ones around near like the pickleball?
I,
Oh.
mm,
Replace those with a pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
One.
One, because you
Maybe
just
one
need one.
pedestrian?
Yep. And those, they probably act as sort of a security barrier too. Is that a curb in front of the building?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like one more, if someone were to
Mm-hmm.
come with a truck or
You can
something and
see
try
it,
to.
yeah.
I'm assuming remove the one between the two playground containers? along
Yeah.
the trail?
Yeah,
Just floating up there.
I
yeah,
think the other ones will light it up enough.
yeah.
But leave the three in front of the building.
Or add another pedestrian scale lighting there if we want one. Because it's spaced about the right distance from the other ones.
Are those stairs gonna be lighted or are they not stairs? Between the two playgrounds?
Those look
Right
like
here.
stairs.
Don't you need to light those in some?
Yeah, from the light on top, that would cover that
Oh,
area.
okay.
Does that have, sorry, I'm getting kind of off topic here, but just like for lighting, I'm thinking if you are walking, not knowing truly how bright those lights are, because I know sometimes they're sort of dim. Isn't there architecturally something that you can place lights into so it lights up a walkway? Like maybe just for the stairs, if you're going down the stairs? Maybe that's not even possible, but I'm just wondering like, isn't there a wall there, like a landscaping wall or something?
Oh, yeah,
With
there
the steps?
could be lights in the, embedded in the concrete,
We could cast those in.
yeah.
Okay.
Just do the walkway,
Yeah,
the treads and red.
because that looks kind of steep. That, I mean, not that it is, but there's a lot of steps there, if that's how many there really are.
What's nice is it eliminates some of the shadows. Your problem is that the snow and ice sometimes
Yeah.
can build up there.
Other thoughts about lights? All right. Your turn.
Oh, and this is out of order because I wanted to, I'm not sure how it is in your packet, but we worked with staff at the beginning of the project to identify a list of programmatic spaces. I think you saw some of those layouts. In schematic design and design development, we continue to work with staff to refine the size of those spaces, the configuration of those spaces, and how they all interplay together to try to find some operational efficiencies. What you're seeing is where we're at right now. In the center of the building, we have a climate-controlled vestibule. From that vestibule, you could go into the main facility or go into the small room. Thank you. So from the vestibule, we have a direct connection to the main gathering space, which is separated into two spaces, one small space and one large space. For reference, the occupancy, now based on a code occupancy of 15 people per square feet, which is somewhat subjective on how you do your layout, but that's what the code would say you could have in there. This is approximately 30 people, and this is approximately 60 people, so wide open it'd be 90 people. We've done a series of layouts using round tables, a classroom setting, etc. A more realistic number with enough room to get around is probably between 75 and 80. But if you did do more of a wedding type setup where you have rows of chairs, you could probably get to that max capacity. But your code capacity would be somewhere around 90. The rest of the spaces are support spaces for that main gathering and for the park amenities. Off the vestibule, you have a single occupancy gender neutral restroom. Adjacent to that, you have a family single occupancy gender neutral restroom. The only difference between those two is that there's a new Minnesota statute that you need to have at least one adult changing table in a family restroom with an assembly occupancy, which the main gathering space would be an assembly occupancy. So this family single occupancy is accessible from both the inside and the outside. Adjacent to that, you have a mechanical storage area and another single occupancy gender neutral restroom. So your total from the inside would be 3 restrooms. From the outside, your total would be 2 using this single occupancy gender neutral and this family. So those are your exterior access restrooms. The other space is a catering kitchen, which faces the park proper, the playground, etc. And that has its own isolated storage space. The idea of that storage space would be to lock up anything in a rental type situation. If you had any city-owned equipment could be locked in that if you were renting it out. Off the main gathering space, we have another storage space which is dedicated primarily to the fixtures, furniture, and equipment that would be in the main gathering space. We haven't really picked out that furniture yet, so we're not sure if that's appropriately sized, but we did base it on a previous project that had a stackable cart-style table and chair. So we think that we're close. We'll have to do some refinements. Similar to the mechanical storage, we don't have the exact equipment yet. We think we're close, but we might have to do some refinements once the actual equipment for heating and cooling is chosen. In the main gathering space, we've got a large opening on both sides so that the entire space could be opened up to the outside during an event or specifically during the spring and summer and fall. We're working to see what type of door we would put in that wall. We have 3 options really right now, trying to come up with a good, better, best, and trying to get pricing back from that. We hope to have that ready by the time 60% is due in a month or so. We have that pricing out to vendors right now. Other than that, we have openings out to a covered patio area outside, both from the small room and the large room, if the partition located right here would be closed. Anything else? The catering kitchen has serving windows both to the interior and to the exterior. We're somewhat limited just by wall on how big the interior serving window could be. The catering kitchen window to the exterior could be sized however you want it. We have this entire length of counter to play with. So those are the primary elements inside. Do you have any questions on the layout?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I love that there's kind of like a breezeway between, I don't know, is it north and south of that main gathering area?
Yep.
But how big does the mechanical storage area need to be? Because like, if you eliminated that space in front of, like, right there where that doorway is,
Yep.
and opened that up, that would be another breezeway to go through the building, and then you could still access all the bathrooms, and you wouldn't need the extra bathroom door on that family room.
True.
But if you need to have that space for the mechanical storage, I guess I understand, but that would just be another, I don't know, another entrance to get into the main gathering area, I guess, just as another breezeway. And then you could have, I don't know, maybe some more interesting doors. I have some comments on the outside of the building too, but I'll wait till we get to that stage.
So I got a question on on the family bathroom you have there.
Yeah.
You're talking, if you came in,
You'd eliminate that wall that's right there, right now where the electric, right there.
right,
Yep, and so you'd have the door from the outside, that would get you right into that family room, bathroom. You wouldn't need to have that outside door there. 'Cause
which
you could,
has
you could access it from that door on the left.
the family bathroom.
Yeah,
But you kind of need the inside one also.
the door, yeah.
You said eliminate the door.
Well, the one that's a door on the lower left.
Yeah, I'll limit this door. The concern I would have with that, and from other communities, would be, there's a security concern there. I think the idea is that the exterior doors are there for when the building is closed.
Exactly, is what I was gonna say. You need those two for splash pad time and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you need the door there for when this is being used, you've got 3 bathrooms.
Yeah,
Now, it doesn't mean
No.
the storage has to be that big and you couldn't come in there, the doors could
just
still be
leave the
there.
door there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are still, again, in the process of kind of right-sizing the mechanical room. I don't think it's gonna get any smaller, just to be perfectly honest.
Mechanical room?
Yeah. Just looking at how we're gonna stage furnaces in there, there's a number of different types of spaces in there, and we're gonna wanna zone that appropriately. I think the most efficient and cost-effective way to do that would be with multiple furnaces, as opposed to a larger, more commercial piece of equipment that would have multiple zones in it. So I do think they'll have quite a bit of mechanical room, I'm just not sure the footprint of that yet, so.
So that would be I guess my only comment, is to try to utilize more space for getting through the building. I don't know, like, I'm thinking, like, if you had a wedding there, you could enter through that side door and come down the hallway. That might be another resource then for the caterer to access. I'm not sure if there's a way to then get that catering kitchen access to the hallway too, versus going out to the main gathering area.
Right, right now, their primary access would be around the left side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work with the 2 doors on one family restroom? I feel like that would be somewhat problematic, but maybe it's been done and there's no issues.
Usually they're both on a timer
Or lock,
Oh.
yeah,
on the
locked.
program, so that they lock and unlock at certain times.
Okay.
It still would have to be monitored though, because somebody could easily sabotage essentially
Mhm.
by keeping it open, even when it locks. So you'd have to, usually we'd use door contacts, so it would tell you that the door is closed,
Oh.
to ensure that it is closed and locked.
So like when the park was open, the outside door would be open, the inside door would be locked.
Correct.
How is that catering kitchen in size versus the main gathering area? I guess when I look at it, that's, if we were to trade anywhere off, the catering kitchen is quite a large. But is that appropriate for this size, for the 90 people?
I think without identifying exact programming for the space, I think that it allows the flexibility to both prepare food there in some instances and also for a caterer to bring carts in. I think if it was strictly a catering kitchen, it could be shortened up. I wouldn't go any narrower. I think that's about how narrow it should be. But I think it could be shortened up maybe 4 or 5 feet if it was just carts, hot carts,
Okay.
and cold.
Can they cook in that kitchen? Or is that only like microwave or just outlets or like?
Well, it's kind of a chicken and egg question. We'd have to identify a menu, which would then inform us what we would have to do. For example, if we kept it to prepackaged foods, we wouldn't need something like a 3-compartment sink. The the second we start actually doing any prep, we would have to have a 3-compartment sink and a hand washing sink and a few other finish requirements.
Okay.
So it's really identifying what kinds of things you want to serve out of there. I think in the communities I've worked with, the safest thing to do is just keep it a catering kitchen, so most of that onus is put on whoever's using it. And then when open flame becomes involved, that's when you get to the highest level for the Department of Health.
And we were not planning on having open flame.
Right.
I think the vision was not even a dishwasher, it was gonna be like a fridge to keep things cold, the sink,
And a boatload of plugins.
and a ton of plugins.
Mhm.
Crockpot nation.
And a big enough fridge to accommodate someone having a party there. Because like I think about the places that we've been to,
Uh-huh,
and the fridge is like up to your knees, and it's like teeny, and you can't even fit anything in it.
tiny fridge from the graduation
Right,
party
right.
will not do it.
No.
So even those little flames that you put under a thing, under a,
Oh,
Tray.
stir, no, you could have
Yeah.
that.
That's
but
different.
Chafing.
okay,
No,
because
that-
I would say
that
most
Bring it in. That
catering do
That's
that.
You start
yeah.
running gas into the building
Yeah.
and stuff
Correct.
like that, right?
Gotcha,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the stove is really the red flag.
gotcha. Yeah.
Other thoughts on the floor plan?
Is there, on the top of the main gathering and the bottom, there's an extension of the wall? Is there, on both
Like an
sides?
overhang?
Yeah, is that maybe for the overhang?
It is for the
Kind of
overhang,
like, okay.
So I have a question. What is the additional storage behind the catering kitchen? Is that,
110.
yeah,
So that's like, let's say the city, we will probably be hosting events and stuff in here. That's storage of things that we would use to host our events.
like table and chairs?
Nope, tables and chairs would be in 106.
Okay.
So then 110 would be things like any serving dishes, utensils, things that we need to make an event run with food
Okay,
that I don't need to store at my desk.
I was gonna say.
yeah.
is
Or
it
if the
currently at your
PD's
desk?
doing, the firearm safety in there,
Mhm.
and they would store their, they used to sell candy and stuff, I don't know if they do anymore, but the last day, they serve food,
Right.
you know?
And if you had an event where the general public was gonna be using that kitchen, you'd wanna lock that stuff away.
Mhm. Could you add another cabinet along that south wall where those two little squares are?
We definitely could.
Is that the sink?
As soon as we identify whether or not we need the 3-compartment sink, or whether or not we're gonna have a series of rolling carts in there, I think it's still in flux
Mhm.
on exactly how that kitchen's gonna work. And it's all predicated on what we're gonna serve out of there.
Mhm.
So I think once we identify the menu, we'll identify what goes in it a little bit better.
Because there's never enough counter space either.
No,
And remind me, is it up accessible to the catering kitchen?
I don't think we can drive back there.
Probably not, right? Okay.
No, well,
I also would highly encourage that we probably don't,
Yeah.
based on where it's
By the
located in
playground.
comparison to the splash pad and the
Yeah,
playground.
yeah. So they just bring everything through the front.
But to Thomas's point, I think part of the things we're considering are like the 2-tier carts, so that, if you do have a caterer, someone could roll stuff in versus having to
Yeah.
haul it around.
Plug it in, the box, yeah.
Could you flip the kitchen to the other side so it's closer to the front door? That is the front door on the bottom, right?
Yeah,
Bottom of the
The
building.
vestibule there, yes. I believe we looked at an option for flipping the catering kitchen to this side, and I think the problem is that it becomes tucked away and less accessible to the main gathering space,
Yeah.
and it creates a fair bit of traffic in a hallway type configuration at the front door.
What about where the bathroom and the storage room is?
It could flip to here.
But then you don't have the access
Then you
to
don't
the
have outside
outside.
access
Right.
then.
Oh.
And if you're utilizing both spaces because it's only a capacity of
Yeah,
90,
but you
might want-
could have access from, isn't there a front door on the bottom of that, like on the south side, or is that a window? I'm going like over here, yep, right there.
Here?
Is that a door or a window?
Yeah, it's a large door opening right now, and it's either an overhead door or a bifold door, or some type of large opening that can be opened up during an event.
Because like that would be much easier to access and move things in than that tiny little vestibule area. Because you're going
Yeah,
through,
they can use it. I mean,
They could if they wanted to.
yeah.
I'm just saying that if you moved the kitchen area down closer to that, it would make, it would just be easier for them to get to the kitchen. It'd be right off the hallway. You wouldn't have to have the door that leads into the gathering space off the kitchen. You could have it in the hallway. I don't know. And maybe you want a door directly off the gathering space into the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
I would think you would, because
Yeah,
you could bring it
it's your
right into the
access,
main
yeah.
gathering space.
I think you definitely want it to be on an outside wall, and you definitely want it immediately adjacent to the main gathering space. So your two most likely areas are the area that it is, or an area that kind of is occupied by the vestibule or in these restrooms.
What about if you moved it vertically instead of horizontally? So it would start where that little window is, on the north side.
Like flipping it this way.
Yep, and then you had it come down.
This way?
Yep, so it'd be long.
Yeah, that might be nice. It would limit your exterior serving. You just flip-flop what I had mentioned earlier, is that you have an interior serving counter that's somewhat limited in space, and an exterior that you just flip-flop that.
Where would you put
then-
the storage though, because you're gonna be using the storage and the tables and chairs a lot more than you're gonna
Well,
be
your
using the
storage
kitchen.
could just move closer to the, right off the back side there, like on, I can't see what it says there, where the catering kitchen starts, where that C is. And the kitchen, you could move your storage right there,
To the left of the,
kitchen
But
area
then you're
now.
pulling tables.
yeah,
through the
that's gonna be a
catering
long
kitchen and
haul to the
Yeah, you're
tables
pulling
and
them through.
chairs.
Like the other storage is smaller stuff, I imagine.
But what you're saying is put the catering kitchen here, and then I think put the storage right here.
Yeah,
But then you're having to go around the entire kitchen through the hallway
Mm-hmm.
to
get
pull out
tables
the
and
tables
everything
and
out.
chairs.
well, it could go right next to where that, like right underneath the other storage. So like if you have the kitchen space where the storage and that, where you just had it, Thomas, that
Yeah.
one big rectangle.
Yep.
And you moved the smaller storage for like, the city storage over.
Here.
Yep, and then you bump down your other storage right there. You could even have those two storage rooms connected if you wanted with a door, and you could still be able to easily move all the tables out from that bigger storage space that you have now, the blue rectangle, into that area.
You'd
Down
be
the
going
hallway.
through the hallway though.
I don't
Rather
think
than
that's a big
directly
deal.
into the room.
I think
As someone who's previously worked in a community center and had to move tables and chairs frequently, I will tell you, it is going to be a huge pain if it's not connected to that room.
Okay.
A huge pain.
you see anything? Speak up.
The only downfall with having it be connected to the main gathering space is that if you have someone in that main gathering space and not the lower one until later, it's harder to do that.
Yeah.
That requires pre-setup. I would say you're better off having it where it is.
Well, here's my question. You use the storage when you set up and when you take down. You use the kitchen the entire time.
Assuming you're using the kitchen. Not everyone uses the kitchen.
True. But in a case where you're using the kitchen, if someone's having like a party, like a graduation party or maybe even a wedding gathering, to me it makes more sense to have your kitchen be more prominent in the space versus a storage area, because you're only accessing the storage area when you pick up and take down, or take out and put down. And it's really not that far. It's maybe how many feet? 10 feet maybe? 20, 15 feet maybe? If that storage area was right next to the kitchen?
And I just picture how this space is gonna be used. I think the kitchen's not gonna be, I don't know, I would think
Used that
maybe
much?
half of the time that people register, or less of the space, they're gonna use the kitchen. So I think our prioritize, how do you enable that main gathering space to be effective? And if we think that's storage, I would even sacrifice a little bit of the catering kitchen size myself. That's kinda why I was asking that question, but it doesn't seem like we have to. But I guess that's my opinion. The kitchen probably isn't the feature of this building. It's that main gathering space.
No, but I mean, if we're using it as a gathering space to have events, right? Unless we're not using it for events. If we're just using it for like activities for the city, that changes the scope of it, I guess.
Not
Because
just,
then
but I
you would be
think
using
that's,
storage more, then you would be pulling out chairs. But if the purpose is for us to rent this to make revenue for the city, to me, it makes more sense to have the kitchen be easily accessible. you don't need that door in the back then for the kitchen, because really, who wants to drag everything to that back door to get it into the kitchen? You'd be going from the front of the building, either through the vestibule or through that big opening in the front of the gathering area.
I do like the option to bring things into the catering kitchen directly from the outside in case the event is already in progress.
You know, or the kitchen staff is cleaning up and the event
Right.
continues to
True.
go on.
And you just want to get things out of there while the
Out the
event
back
is still
door.
going on.
Yep.
So I think I'd want to maintain some type of access to, directly to the outside.
Mhm.
Regardless of
I
where
suppose
it is.
garbage and stuff could be located in that area in the back, because you won't want to carry your garbage out through the general gathering area. You'd want to exit out a back door.
I think so. But I think that this location makes a fair bit of sense. But it does, because you'd want to have the single occupancy gender neutral restroom accessible off this hallway, just because it's kind of restroom alley essentially. It's a good wayfinding, it's an obvious usability factor. So you'd want to have that here, which kind of landlocks your other storage, which could be, you could lump all the mechanical storage and the storage together as one large room. But
You lose kitchen space that way too, because you'd need double doors to get the tables and chairs out,
correct.
which takes away cabinet space or whatever else.
And I do think that having your furniture and your equipment, et cetera, tucked back here is a little bit cumbersome to bring it to this hallway, especially if there is some type of congestion or people coming and going within that moment.
There's no perfect layout.
No.
I think this current makes a lot of sense. I think you could move the kitchen, but you're introducing other problems and fixing a few problems.
Right. No. I'm just, this is going to be here forever, so that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
the
it's
question.
good to walk through it.
Yeah.
What are you looking to solve with moving the kitchen?
It seems like it's not, it seems awkward to me how it's arranged right now with
The
how-
access,
Yeah, with how you get things into the building. Whether you have carts or don't have carts. I was just trying to think of a more centralized
straight shot.
Yeah, more of a straight shot, more centralized location for the kitchen for easy access. I mean, if you did have it vertical, you could even put the bigger storage area on the other side of the kitchen and just have double doors again, so you just go through the kitchen for your setup and take down for the storage then. If it
Like
was,
bring the tables and chairs through the kitchen?
well, like, if you had the vertical one again, like the rectangle kitchen, and you put the storage room on the back end of that kitchen, so it's sort of behind it, it's almost like a secret room. You'd be able to access that room through the kitchen. You can still use the space once it's set up, but then when you take down, it goes back in at the end of the night.
I certainly don't want to walk through a kitchen, because if the catering team is trying to clear
Clean
out,
up
and then
and-
you've
I
got
suppose.
staff there trying to tear down,
Yeah,
you're gonna make staff stay a
One, you're
lot
gonna have
later.
people
Well,
crossing.
someone's gonna
Yeah.
end up
yep,
in a gridlock there.
yep. Okay.
I think ideally, I'm currently thinking about a territory right now. But I think ideally, one thing that might make it better is if you could access the catering kitchen from the side, as opposed to going all the way behind it.
Mhm.
And in order to facilitate that, I think you'd have to slide this restroom down and the catering kitchen back, which would only make the catering kitchen larger. But what I would do is, when I get a final layout for the mechanical and storage, I think I will take a look at